This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
I'd say one of the most underused aspects of generative AI is using it to take your voice and your style and create multiple pieces of content on the back end. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on Everyday AI. How you can use AI to really just create a content machine that just starts with nothing more than your voice. I'm excited to talk with today's guest. But before we do, welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you're listening on the podcast, we appreciate your support. Make sure to check out the show notes, the episode description. We always have a lot of additional resources, as well as how you can sign up for the newsletter for more information on today's show. And if you're joining us live, like, hey, Tara's beating everyone every single day. Tara, thanks for joining. If you're joining us live, get your questions in. What do you want to know about the best ways to use AI to repurpose your voice, your style? Thank you all for joining us. Chrissy, good morning to you as well. Before we get into that, as a reminder, if you are joining us live or on the live stream, and if you aren't listening yet, or if you aren't subscribed to our newsletter, like, why not? Let me know. I always like hearing, but go to youreverydayai.com. It is a free generative AI university. There's not a single source out there, not a single unbiased source that has more information on generative AI than we do. More than 200 podcasts you can go listen to, more than 200 newsletters. And you can also, hey, if you want to learn about entrepreneurship or startups or sales or whatever it is, we have it all categorized on our website. All right, but let's go over what's happening in the world of AI news. All right, so Adobe is officially getting into the AI video space. Well, they kind of already are, but in a bigger way. So Adobe's head of AI research just announced on social media that they're creating a new division called Cava. So this Adobe research introduced the Cava team, which is the co-creation for audio, video, and animation. So reportedly, this is a team of 50 researchers focused on all aspects of video creation, including music, speech, and interaction design. So Adobe also yesterday just released an AI-powered chatbot called their AI Assistant that works inside of their Adobe Acrobat program that allows you to chat with your documents of different file formats. All right, it's all the big tech titans today making the news, because Meta is also in the news, showcasing some new AI-powered devices and features. So Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced the development of an AI-powered wristband and AI-embedded Ray-Ban glasses as part of their mission to democratize AI technology and enhance user experience. So the new wristband one, it's really cool. We'll drop a link to it in the newsletter. You can see it. But the new EMG, which is electromyography neural interface wristband, can track gesture controls through brain waves. Yes, potentially allowing for typing and controlling devices with just hand movements. So yes, I believe the demo was them using this new EMG brain technology weared on your wrist. And I think they were controlling the new Meta Quest interface. But Meta is focused on making this AI technology more accessible to the masses through these innovative products. It's pretty cool to watch, if I'm being honest. Also, these wearable devices aim to capture neural activity and provide real-time assistance, making learning and understanding more familiar with your surroundings. All right. Last but not least, we got big money here at the end. Anthropic is cashing even more big checks, this time after netting a large $750 million investment. So the latest fundraising round here came from Menlo Ventures. Anthropic has raised a total of $7.3 billion with a B in investments, with big tech companies like Google, Amazon, and two Asian telecom companies contributing as well. So part of their deal with Amazon, if you didn't know this, pretty smart on Anthropic side, but part of the deal between Amazon and Anthropic includes allowing Anthropic to use a lot of cloud capacity from AWS for AI training and inference. All right. And as always, there's always more. So make sure you go sign up for our newsletter at youreverydayai.com. We always have more news, more fresh finds from across the internet, and more from our guest today. So, hey, warning all the the SaaS founders and the GenAI companies that bug me every day. Hey, I love hearing from you, but I don't bring companies on because I hear too many of them. But in this one's different because I actually reached out to Blaine, our guest for today. So I'll tell you why. But first, let's bring him on to the stage. All right. So there we go. Blaine Bolus is the co-founder of Castmagic. Blaine, thanks for joining the show.
Jordan, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Blaine, real quick, just tell us a little bit about what you do and what Castmagic is, the company you co-founded.
Sure. So I'm the co-founder of Castmagic, and we're basically an all-in-one content workspace that uses your own media context. So things like it could be voice notes, media files, audio files, anything like that. And it uses it as context to write whatever sort of content that you'd like using AI.
And I do have to get it out of the way. We are big Castmagic fans. I've talked about it on the show before, maybe 2 or 3 times. It's a tool that we use every single day. So yes, I did ask Blaine, I'm like, you got to come on the show and we got to talk about it because I think it's actually a very powerful, just the concept of using AI to take your voice and create a lot of content on the backside. But Blaine, I'm curious, like what gave you the idea to start Castmagic?
Yeah, so basically the way it started is kind of like you. I found myself in the podcasting space. I host a podcast called DTC Pod. We have over 300 episodes. And one of the biggest challenges was we'd have all these great conversations with guests that were, 30 minutes to an hour long. And then creating more either promotional content or even just like digestible content from that podcast was like really impossible. We would try to outsource it to agencies and you'd have people like trying to like read through the transcripts and understand what was going on. And like the content that they were delivering out of it just like wasn't really cutting it for our needs. So we saw AI coming along and said, hey, what if we could basically productize everything that, we're trying to outsource to agencies and people who aren't quite cutting it. So that was kind of the first version, was like build a tool to like ingest our podcast, transcribe it, and take all of that context in that transcription and turn it into all the different content assets that we would need for every different social platform, the follow-up email to the guest, the notes for our website, like all of those different content assets, just do it instantly with AI. And then once we were able to do that, we're like, wait a minute, if we can do this for like hour-long podcast conversations, like this type of functionality could really be applied to anything that involves audio or media. So whether it's your voice notes, whether it's your meetings, whether it's, pulling videos from YouTube or Vimeo or Instagram or TikTok and using those as source context to build something else, like it can all be done with that infrastructure. So that was kind of like the impetus. It started as a podcast content creation tool. And then we're like, wait a minute, we can kind of use this for everything that has to do with media.
Absolutely. And hey, if you are joining us live, I think this is a great opportunity to ask Blaine any question, because I think there's so many ways that even non-podcasters can and should be using AI to repurpose their thoughts and their voices. But maybe let's start there, Blaine. So, even if we just kind of rewind from, or, zoom out from just Castmagic, but like, why should even non-podcasters be using AI to repurpose their own voice, their own thoughts, and produce content? Why can this be for even non-podcasters?
So I think content is really important. I think we're kind of in this wave of explosion of people creating content. We saw it first like sort of happen on blogs and like short form bloggers on Instagram. And then now you started to see it on like LinkedIn and other platforms like that, where everyone's creating content. And why do people want to create content? Because it grows your trust, which allows you to grow your business, whatever it is, whether you're choosing to get massive scale and monetize just solely from your content and promotions that happen there, or if you're going a little bit more niche, it may be the perfect way to generate leads for whatever it is your business is. If you have a really high ticket business, 100 views on the internet could yield a couple conversions. And the beautiful thing about content is it lets people find you. So people just generally don't love being sold to like hard and directly, but like people love finding things and discovering it. So it basic content, when you put it out and you're consistent about it, it turns what used to be like an outbound motion where you're doing cold sales and you're reaching out and you're talking to people who don't really want to hear from you, and it turns that to an inbound motion. So we're really big on content. I know you are, and a whole bunch of other businesses are really growing and thriving through just creating content consistently, putting it out there and growing your business. So that's kind of the why you should care about creating content. And then the other thing I'd say for any sort of professional is like kind of that challenge we were talking about before with the format of a podcast or a dialogue. There's just so much information in there, and it's like information dense, but like getting it in usable formats isn't always the easiest sort of thing. So, you know, we've seen use cases for like, I mean, sales teams at car dealerships or sales teams that are doing online selling, like anyone who's having conversation or dialogue and trying to be like, wait a minute, what did we talk about there? I want to extract that information and I want to use it in a useful way. And people are using Castmagic to do that, which is cool.
You know, and a comment coming in here from Ken, just, you know, saying the human connection through the human voice. Blaine, can you talk a little bit about that and how, you know, there's so many, don't get me wrong. I love Castmagic. We've used a handful of them, and a lot of different, companies do this really well. But can you talk a little bit about the process of using your own voice and what that opens up for creating more human sounding and more relational written content?
Yeah, so I think the whole concept of human voice is amazing, and it's something that kind of like blows my mind. As a podcaster, podcasting is also or streaming, anything. There's such interesting mediums because when you're doing it, you don't really feel like anyone's like listening, but then the people who are listening, it's like they're sitting in a room with you, hearing you like ramble or go on for an hour. And the voice, it's like, like I don't think humans were like, we weren't evolved to like expect to be hearing digital voices like in our heads from people. So when you have that experience, it just makes you feel like you're like in the room with them, which is why, podcast advertising has like taken off in the latest years. It's just in terms of like the brand equity and awareness and that level of trust that you get through the human voice. It's a really big thing. Now, moving to your second point, which is about how do you use that context to basically leverage that into other relatable mediums. Basically, one of the challenges of AI is getting it to like write like you, sound like you, and put out content assets the way you would have done if you had written them yourself. So the way we like to think of it is like there's 3 keys to like building a successful content engine with AI to get it to like sound like you and do everything as if you were like a superhuman who had like all the time in the world to do this. And the first is context. So it needs unique information or data. And in that context, it's the dialogues, conversations, videos, voice ramblings, whatever you're feeding the AI, that is unique to you and only you. Like AI is trained on the corpus of the internet, but it's not trained on what you're thinking or saying right now in the moment. So context is number 1. Number 2, when it comes to content is strategy, right? Like what is the right content strategy for your business? What channel do you want to be on? How many times do you want to post? What's the concepts that you're putting out? As a content creator, you need to go in with some level of strategy so you can build a system to scale this, right? And the third part is kind of what we talked about. That's authenticity and tone matching. So when you're putting out content, if you're just going into ChatGPT and you're saying, write me a tweet thread about XYZ topic, well, guess what? Like thousands of other people have put that exact same prompt into ChatGPT and gotten the exact same like boring, like platitudinal answer. So when you combine context with strategy and the ability to then match your own tone, voice, and style, now you can get content that like sounds a lot like you. It comes from your own context. And now you can like basically put a little polish on and push it out. And it helps you just gain a lot of leverage when it comes to creating content or, being present on all the channels that you like to be present on.
All right. I've got a hot take on this one, but I want to hear from you. Is too much AI content right now a problem?
Yes. So I think so. I think the biggest mistake people are making is putting out like too much crappy AI content, right? I think people will just go to ChatGPT, write something, and just copy paste. And I think if you're doing that, I think like going back to what we talked about with authenticity, people trust people, and people don't trust people where it's like, that's not you talking. Like, what are you doing? Right. So I think the key is, if you're going to be using AI to like publish content, like put your own spin on it, give it a proofread, make sure it's something that you would actually write and press publish on. I think it's a great accelerator for humans, but again, we're the last level of curation. So we should be having a voice and a part in the content that's being created, other than lazily just creating the content and being like, okay, I'm pressing publish, right?
Yeah. Anytime I see someone send me something that has the word delve in there 3
Delve.
times and double emojis on everything, every single subhead, I'm like, all right, you could have at least done a little bit something here. So I mean, I also think about this a lot, Blaine, is when I always encourage people, right? Like, yeah, use tools like Castmagic or, these different meeting tools, MeetGeek or Fathom or Otter or whatever it is, right? To do the same thing for your meetings. But then the downside is, yeah, like when people don't take the time and the care to bring their own voice to whatever content that they're creating on the back end. So I'm sure that you've worked with hundreds or thousands of content creators. Maybe what are some of your even best tips for people when they're using AI to scale their written content, aside from kind of what you said, make sure it has that human touch? But is there any more insights that you can give us on how to really make it a connecting piece of content?
Yeah, definitely. So this one was the biggest thing for us. I think what we found, like you said, we've worked with a bunch of creators right now, over 40,000 creators to date, and only growing. And the biggest thing we're starting to see was that people ChatGPT came out and it was all about like the prompt and coming up with the most complex prompts. But complex prompts don't exactly always equal the output or like tone and voice and style that you might actually want. They may not sound like you. It was actually funny. We even did a thing where we tried to like reverse engineer pieces that, we were writing, and being like, ChatGPT, describe the tone or like the style that like we're writing in, and we'd come up with all these like crazy adjectives. You'd plug those tone and adjectives back into ChatGPT, and the results were like just weird. So when it comes, for us at least, the way the code that like I've sort of been able to crack with Castmagic and how it can handle writing for me is just the use of content samples. So rather than overthinking on how am I going to create the prompt and write an essay and spend more time writing instructions than I would spend writing the content, right? All I'm going to do is find a piece of content that I like, that I'd like to emulate in terms of like my own voice and style. I'm going to paste it in as a content sample, and then I'm just going to describe that content sample. So basically in Castmagic, the whole notion of prompting becomes a lot easier, because you're not really thinking about, let me come up with all the perfect instructions for the prompt. You're just finding a piece of or style or format, whether it's a particular email format that you've written that you like, whether it's a particular style of show notes, whether it's a particular style of blog writing or tweet thread or note sort of follow up, anything that you want, you just paste it in as a content sample, and then AI can take that and basically emulate that tone, style, and format for you based off of whatever unique context, in this case, a conversation, dialogue, or media or video, you're feeding it.
Are you still running in circles trying to figure out how to actually grow your business with AI? Maybe your company has been tinkering with large language models for a year or more, but can't really get traction to find ROI on GenAI. Hey, this is Jordan Wilson, host of this very podcast. Companies like Adobe, Microsoft, and NVIDIA have partnered with us because they trust our expertise in educating the masses around generative AI to get ahead. And some of the most innovative companies in the country hire us to help with their AI strategy and to train hundreds of their employees on how to use GenAI. So whether you're looking for ChatGPT training for thousands or just need help building your front-end AI strategy, you can partner with us too, just like some of the biggest companies in the world do. Go to youreverydayai.com/partner to get in contact with our team, or you can just click on the partner section of our website. We'll help you stop running in those AI circles and help get your team ahead and build a straight path to ROI on GenAI.
Do you think that there's kind of a curve that we're experiencing right now with AI content? Because I think, even personally, over the last, year or so, I've seen people that maybe weren't interested in producing written content, flock to, Chat GPT or now Gemini or Anthropic Claude. And, everyone's like, now, okay, I can create decent content. Do you think that we're going to continue to go on this kind of uphill climb? Even as tools such as Castmagic make it even easier to repurpose, or do you think maybe that the written kind of content piece, and we kind of hit the cap, right? And maybe are we now going to be seeing more people doing videos and podcasts? Like, what are your thoughts on kind of the future of content creation with great tools like Castmagic and others? And are we just going to see more and more and more written content?
I think we are going to see more written content, but at the same time, I'll say I think content in general, like there's a power law to it. So when you're creating content, when everyone in the world is doing the same thing, like if you're just doing the same thing everyone else is doing, your content is going to get drowned out. So like what really stands out is point of views that are unique, point of views that are unique to you. And even style and formats. Like I think the reason we saw a resurgence in text was just the fact that like so much of our content consumption was like moving to, like short form video, TikTok, Instagram, photos, all of that. And people were like, wait a minute, like let's create more text content. And like, so it opened up an opportunity that, but content in general, I think the best content creators are always kind of ahead of the curve and ahead of the masses. And that's what makes them stand out. So I think at the end of the day, what you're trying to do as a content creator is you want to be able to stand out. And the way you stand out is you create content that's unique to you and only you, because you have a unique vantage point on things. And then the other thing is once you've figured that out, then it's about building a system and, having a process to it. So it's not just, I created one great piece of content. You're building an entire operating system around your content.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of that, that's literally what we do here at Everyday AI. So we obviously have, some tools that we use on the front end, some tools that we use at the back end, but Castmagic is a big part of our daily workflow, right? So to create a daily podcast and live stream and newsletter, it's a lot. So, I'm curious, I've always had people to be like, oh, Jordan, tell me how you do this, like what tools you use. So maybe if you are interested, maybe I'll do a behind the scenes on how we produce it, how we use Castmagic. So, if you're live, maybe just like type in the word process or something like that. Maybe if enough people want to see it, we'll do a little something special. But, Brian here even asking something similar. So Brian's asking, what are some of the automated flows that you use, Blaine, and how do you wrap AI into that? Yeah, I'm always curious how people either personally use their own products that they build, or maybe, some AI that you use maybe before or after Castmagic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like we said, workflows are super important. So one way in which we do it is like we start with a podcast, we record it. As soon as it gets recorded, we hook it up with Zapier. So as soon as that podcast is recorded, it's automatically sucked into Castmagic. From there, Castmagic basically creates all the different content assets that we need from the show. So that includes our show notes. So if you like go on our podcast and you see like the show notes, that's all written by AI with our polish, of course. It automatically writes our email follow-up to our guests. It automatically writes the first draft of our newsletter that we send out via email every week. It automatically writes out our like social posts and threads. So where we announce on LinkedIn, where we announce on Twitter, where we announce on all the different platforms. And each platform, we've tailored those posts to like match this tone and style of the platform, right? So like content on Twitter, the way someone's consuming it might be a little bit shorter than the post that you would do on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, you have to know that, it's like the first two lines that you're going to need to catch people's attention, and they either expand it or they don't. So we're basically able to gear the social posts to be optimized for all the different platforms. But in terms of a workflow, that's kind of how we do it. Automatically sucked in via Zapier. We've pre-created all the different points of like our workflow that we need done. And then we're automatically able to send it again via Zapier to all those different end destinations that we're posting and creating content to. So even like the email, all I do is in Castmagic, I hit like one button and it automatically queues it up in my email draft, and then I can just send it out from there. So that's kind of how we bring it into our workflow.
Love it. Here's a kind of related question. You kind of got to this, but maybe if you can speak a little bit more specifically, Blaine. So Tara here is asking, how does the post-production work after the recording is complete?
So post-production isn't something that like we handle. Well, I guess there's two ways to think of post-production, right? There's post-production in terms of what I just talked about on the content end, and there's post-production of like the media file itself, where you're like injecting your ad reads and you're like editing the audio. So like we don't handle editing the audio or anything like that. We're focused on extracting the context and turning that into the post-production assets that you're talking about. So yeah, that it's basically happens kind of what we said. It's all ingested into Castmagic. It's all templated. So all of our content comes out exactly how we like it. And then our team's able to go in and kind of directly edit in Castmagic, put the final touches on before we send it and publish to all the different platforms. So in terms of post-production, it's basically brought all of that workflow into one workspace to make it like really easy to edit. We've got team functionality and collaboration as well, so people can kind of get in there. And especially this is really helpful if you've got other people who are part of your content team. And there's going to be a lot we're going to be continuing to productize on that side as well as it relates to collaboration.
Yeah, and something I'm thinking about, because I actually, Blaine, I brought up Castmagic yesterday. I was talking to a very popular creator here on LinkedIn, and he was kind of walking me through a project that he was working on, and I'm like, okay, well, have you tried a program like Castmagic? And I named one or two others, and he's like, no, I just kind of use Chat GPT for this. So can you walk people through kind of the pros and the cons, right? Because I think there are pros and cons to using a tool like Castmagic versus Chat GPT for something like the transcript. But maybe why might people or could you walk us through situations where you might want to use Chat GPT instead, and then maybe walk us through situations where you would definitely want to use Castmagic instead?
Definitely. I think that's such a good question. And I think people oftentimes think, oh, I can just get one AI and I'm done, right? But I don't think that's the case, because I think it all comes down to how you solve the important problems and the important workflows that you're dealing with. So personally, I use Castmagic all the time for like a big part of my workflow. And I also use ChatGPT because ChatGPT is very good at very specific things that like I need to do in different conversations or ChatGPTs that I've had set up. And Castmagic is really good. And the reason we built Castmagic in the first place is a couple different reasons. One, when ChatGPT released, there was no transcription, right? So you couldn't just take a hour-long audio or video file, drop it into ChatGPT. So we were able to solve for transcription with Castmagic. The second thing we're able to do is start building out a media library. So oftentimes you might want to create a conversation or something that's able to pull context from multiple different media files instead of one. That's not something you can do in ChatGPT. So that's something we're able to do in Castmagic, where you're able to build your whole library of content, and it's always going to be there for you to create content from individual recordings or across multiple recordings. The other part is like a rich user experience. So we've productized the workflow layers for the team collaboration, for how you're able to handle the transcripts, the types of file formats that are going to be output, the experience of labeling the different speakers, and then templating all the different prompts that you're going to be creating with your workflow and hooking those into Zapier. So like these workflow things, like this is why SaaS exists, right? Like for specific workflows, there's going to be tools that are like really better. If you want to just work with the generic version for a Chat GPT, like absolutely. I use Chat GPT. If I'm talking about something that's not related to any of my context or my recordings, and I just want like a quick, sanity check on something, I'm going to use Chat GPT, because I'm not trying to use it across my media library or use it on my voice recordings or anything like that. But if you need a purpose-built tool to like help you create content based off your context and your media, then Castmagic is going to be your bet for that.
So asking here another question, if Castmagic plans to use video in the future for someone that has a video podcast.
Yeah, definitely. We actually just released our first beta of our video product. So, currently, if you ingest video, like you can see, and you can clip out the video right now based on the transcript. So if there's a portion that you're like, one of the things we do in Castmagic, we identify all the parts that would be like great clips or like, quotable sort of moments from the episode. And if you just go into the transcript, you highlight like whatever you want to do and you hit export as a clip. We're also integrating what's called Castmagic Studio, where you're able to now turn different parts of your content instantly into like, social media style, like graphical cards, like quote cards and stuff like that. So you might think of that like right now your workflow might have to be like, oh, you have to export all your content, figure out what you want to write, go over to Canva, like build out your custom templates there. But now we kind of like make it just one click directly from your transcript. You're able to generate visual sort of assets. And that's going to be everything from, video clips to audiograms to social media cards to generative video. So yeah, video is going to be a big part of what we do. And it all starts with having your own stuff and being able to kind of chop it up and repurpose however you're going to need it.
Yeah. I mean, the repurposing is so important, and the speed and the flexibility is amazing. Yeah. Like I said, even full disclosure, me and Blaine are probably going to talk for, 2 or 3 minutes after this call. And, Brandon from my team's already going to have all of this in Castmagic by the time I hang up, and I can go in and work with it. Pretty amazing. So yeah, if you do want to see our process, if enough people want to see, we'll give you behind the scenes. Just maybe type in the comments here, email me process. But Blaine, as we wrap up here, because we've talked about a lot, we've talked about how you can, use AI to better understand context, how to bring your own tone and style, into your written content ultimately. But maybe what's your one biggest takeaway for people, even for maybe those of us who aren't podcasters, right? Like, what is the best way that you can give us, or the best piece of advice on how to use AI to properly create content that reflects our own tone and style?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is AI, like use AI to like augment what you're currently doing, or tap into things that you've always wanted to do that have been like too much of an actual problem for you. So I would say number one, like try things, but try things intentionally, right? Like you want to use AI not just because like it's cool and like there's a bunch of like new tools coming out every single day, but you want to use things that actually solve a problem and have value for you. And then once you're there, my other takeaway is at the end of the day, you want to stay authentic to yourself. So definitely leverage AI, but like make sure you're putting your own polish on it and not just blindly posting, because at the end of the day, authenticity with your audience does matter. And at the end of the day, you're the one who's curating what you're publishing, what your relationship is with your audience, your community, et cetera. So that's not something you want to abuse and lose by just posting a bunch of content that says, as we delve into our conversation today, which is clearly AI generated. So that's my takeaway.
The word delve, poor delve. Delve is
it's really ruined it for me
up over the last couple of months.
It has.
Cool.
I think actually, Jordan, the funny you say that, in my Castmagic instance, we have like an area where you can like give it context for like rules for things not to do. And I literally have like never used the word delve because never. I know it's the dead giveaway, right?
All right. This was a great one. So thank you so much, Blaine, for joining the Everyday AI show. We really appreciate your time.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me on, Jordan. This was a blast.
And hey, as a reminder, everyone, we went over a lot. We're going to be sharing more, even how we use Castmagic. We might give you a little bit of behind the scenes, but also a lot more in today's newsletter, breaking down today's conversation. If this was helpful, please consider reposting this, resharing this, and join us tomorrow. I'm excited for this one. We're going to be talking about AI meets doctors, turning healthcare from a service to a product, with the CEO and founder of Forward, a pretty big health company out there. So thank you for joining us. Please go to youreverydayai.com, subscribe to that free daily newsletter. We'll see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.